My name is Sukaina Juf. I'm Senegalese. I'm a model, healthcare advocate, and champion with Nothing But Nets in the UN Foundation.
My name is Felicia Ross. I'm a singer, songwriter, pianist, producer, entrepreneur, and of course, philanthropist.
My name is Arek Deng, and I'm the CEO of the Luo Deng Foundation.
My name is Lual Mayen, and I'm the founder and CEO of Junub Game. Junub Game it's a video game company that use the power of game to be able to bring the global communities together.
Thanks everyone for joining the Power of the Diaspora. My name is Sukaina Juf. I'm Senegalese. I'm a model, healthcare advocate, and champion with Nothing But Nets in the UN Foundation. And I currently live in Los Angeles, and I'm really excited to be having this conversation. So I'll give the baton now to Luval.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Lual Mayen, and I'm the founder and CEO of Junub Game. It's a video game company that use the power of game to be able to bring the global communities together. I am really excited to be part of this conversation today. This conversation is something that I've been looking at for a long time because I know the power of diaspora. And for me, who came from living in a refugee camp for more than 22 years back in Uganda, and for me to be in the state today, I feel like, there's a power, there is the opportunities that the diaspora can be able to do, because I believe that we can use our experiences to create a sustainable future for other people.
You just mentioned being part of something bigger, something larger. I want to ask everyone, as we are all members of the diaspora, and I know for myself, just the term diaspora meaning people from a place just dispersing from their homeland. To me, being a member of the diaspora is to be something bigger than yourself, being something bigger than the area, or being something that is bigger and not confined by the area you are from, or the language you may speak, or the way that you look, etc. It's something much larger than where you are at the moment. I feel like Senegal kind of is something that just flows through me, whether I'm there or not there. And that's something that I think is so beautiful about being a part of something that's bigger than yourself. So I just want to ask everyone, what does it mean being a part of the diaspora or a member of the diaspora to you? We can start with Arek.
Being part of the diaspora, I think first I agree with you wholeheartedly that being from your origin, your original country. So me being South Sudanese, it's who I am. It's in me, it's with me, it walks with me everywhere I go. It travels with me on every airplane. And it's something that I'm very proud to be. But I also feel that being part of the diaspora makes you a global citizen, somebody who has a little bit of every place that you've been to with you. And it gives you a different perspective that many people don't have in terms of understanding all of these cultures in the most positive way possible. Because when I say I'm British, I'm also very proud of that. I represented that to the highest level of the sporting competition level. And I am very proud to be from there and to have the most positive aspects of that society. And then having lived in the US or lived in different places, I always feel that you get to feel the beauty of those places. So being part of the diaspora, I feel that we have a power that normally some people are really searching for, but it comes so naturally for us that we walk into rooms and the first thing we feel and see is so much positivity. Regardless of how much negative is in, we are part of the diaspora community because we had to leave the negative and we wanted to run from the negative. So we are always searching for something bright in the room and looking for that one smile that you can connect with, regardless of what that person looks like or what language they speak. So I'm very proud of our diaspora connectivity.
You guys are getting me so excited because I am the only Caribbean person on this panel. When we think of the diaspora, man, I'm a diaspora of you guys in your countries. And it's so beautiful because reaching back, and me as a singer, it's like I represent a community of people in my host country, as you said so eloquently, the US, but also from Haiti. And being the first American in my family, I feel that same responsibility to my host country and to my origin to do good work and be a representative of the positivity, and also to advance the story, the connection of the diaspora deeper, because we can speak the language, the authenticity of the communication between us and our host, our home countries. We're the ones that'll get the trust and the honest feedback back to our people and from our people. So I think it's really cool. I'm your guys' diaspora. That's such a cool, thing to think of, and how deep those roots grow and how connected we really are.
The best thing about it is just the opportunity not to actually forget your root and where you come from, because that's actually what make us who we are. As you said, we are all from different countries. From South Sudan, I grew up in Uganda, and within that community, there was something that actually made me move from South Sudan to Uganda, which was like conflict. And then, but then for me, it's okay, as somebody who is right now in the US, how do I utilize this opportunity to actually be a voice for the people that I left behind? Because as Eric mentioned before, you are so lucky to be where you are. But then how do you take that opportunity to give back to the community? Person was actually meant to actually be the voice for other people, to actually come and tell people what happened. And I feel like for us as a diaspora, as people who actually have these opportunities, we become the voices for the people that we left behind, and just do our things. And then that's something that I love about having the opportunity that we have today. Yeah.
And it's so cool that with us being from different places, we're able to amplify the voices of the place we are most familiar with. I was born in the United States, and I grew up here for the beginning years of my life, then moved back to Senegal. And I always thought that my experiences were able to help me bridge the two experiences, that being the Senegalese and the African American experience. As I am African American, I heard you mention earlier, you are the first American in your family. I'm first generation. The later half of my life, I moved back to Senegal, and that became my reality. That's what I grew to understand. And some parts of me are able to speak on very African American experiences, and some parts of me are very able to speak on very Senegalese experiences. So the uniqueness of how we grow up really shape our understanding of the world. And I think it's important because in advocacy, it helps you add stories. It helps you be able to tell and amplify voices that might not be heard at all. So I love that we just brought that up.
That is really wonderful. I want to get a question to Lual to share with us his journey to actually even developing the games and how you've come to do that. Because you shared with us at the beginning that you've lived in a refugee camp for 22 years. So how does someone who was living in a refugee camp comes to doing video games for peace at that? That is so powerful in so many ways. We would love to hear about that.
Thank you so much. Thanks. It's a question everybody asks me every time, and I don't get tired of telling it because it's who I am, and it's actually what made me to be where I am today. And yeah, as I mentioned before, my family is from South Sudan, and my family had to flee because of the war in South Sudan, finding a place of refuge in Uganda, in northern Uganda. As a child, I was born between the border between Uganda and South Sudan. And I would say actually for me, I was born in South Sudan because there's a place called Ashwa, which is like between Uganda and South Sudan when my family was actually fleeing the war. There's a lot of refugees, especially from South Sudan, that has the same story that I have. The refugee story is for everybody that actually flee their country. And as I say, becoming a refugee was like the only option that we have for my family because there's nothing after that. The biggest thing like that really affected us is something that we are talking about today. Health. There was no good health care in the refugee camp. There was like too much, malaria outbreak every time. And really what inspired me so much to make video game was just an idea of growing up in a refugee camp. I remember asking my mom, and I was like, I want to buy a computer. And she looked at me, she was just laughing at me because there was no money, for her to buy for me a computer. And it was so hard for somebody who doesn't even have money to be able to buy Panadols for when somebody is sick and stuff like that, being able to ask something like that. But because she was a mother to me, she worked so hard to get for me my first computer in a refugee camp. I remember working every day to go and charge my computer. And to me, the only thing that really gave me the power was just the power to be grateful, the power to recognize that what I was living was my home, the power to realize that there are more people than I do that are actually going through the same thing. The power to realize that it wasn't a choice for my family to be able to become refugees. It was the power for me to understand that I am who I am and I can be able to survive. I can be able to create anything that I want to create. And really, it wasn't an easy journey. There is that power. There's that diaspora that actually helped me to be where I am today. I wouldn't be where I am today without the diaspora investing in me to be where I am today. So that's something that I'm going through. That's something that I'm sharing with many people and many youth, many young people. 60% of people in Africa are like all young people. But then how do we invest in them? There's so much talent. And one of my favorite quote of all time is talent is always there, it's distributed, but there's no good opportunity for those people.
You mentioned two things. You mentioned malaria outbreaks in the refugee camp, and you also mentioned the population of African youth within the continent being greater than 50%. We know that around 67% of malaria cases are all with children. And I want to just ask, why is the issue of malaria and global health important to you specifically? And I would like to extend the question to everybody else after.
It's very important for me because that's something that I experienced growing up in a refugee camp for all those years. And one thing I know about malaria and I know about refugees is that when people think about refugees, you have to think about, okay, where do these people live? Is it a safe environment? It's not a safe environment for this. It's not that safe. There's no clean water. And that's why it's something very important to me. It's really very important for the world to really understand that this is something every single day. Some people are dying because of that, not because it's their time, but because we don't have the right resources to be able to treat malaria. There's been so much work that has been done, especially when I was back in the refugee camp. There were nets that were provided, and that nets actually help people from getting malaria often from mosquitoes. That's a great work that has been done for the past years to be able to prevent it, to be able to help more people. And I feel like we actually invest because it's not something that is just stopping.
You mentioned the nets and that being an essential on the refugee camps. Working actually with Nothing But Nets is how I met Felicia. And I just want to ask you your experience and why is the issue of malaria and global health so important to you?
So when we hear his story, it sounds normal to us. Refugee, running home. My family's from Haiti. My mom lived through the Doc and Papa Doc era when they were persecuting people and had to flee the country. Like Lual said, not by choice, not because they wanted to leave their homes. And when we get in situations where we're not going through what Lual had to go through to get a computer, like for us all to be sitting here talking to each other, too often, especially in the countries that we're all from and that we represent, and that I know from knowing Haiti firsthand, it's almost like they have to look at their health as a luxury. And so if I can do any small things or any big things or anything at all in order to ameliorate the situation for my people or to remind other people of what they're going through and to put into perspective a story like Lual's just by being of it, then that's my duty. And I feel like the more we have people like us doing this and groups like Nothing But Nets. You mentioned, Sukina, that you went back to Africa. How did that, and you said you had malaria. So how did that affect you? And how did you make your way into fighting for this as you do a part of your life?
Thank you for that question. Actually, I did move back to Senegal. So yes, I was born in the United States. I was going to school here. I like to say I feel as if I spent half my life in the US, the beginning half, and the later half in Senegal, which contributed more to my developmental years. Those were the years where I was understanding who I was. And I'm so grateful to have experienced that back in my home country, where I'm able to ground who I am in language, in culture, in experiences of people who look like me. And it is when I went back home that I got malaria and had the experience firsthand. I like to explain this to my friends who are not so familiar with this disease. In the United States, you get sick. and you go to the hospital, or you're sick in school, or there's a nurse. These are not realities for everybody around the world. You get sick back home. I don't even think there was a nurse at my school. You get sick and it is almost something scary. And the first instinct isn't to automatically go to a doctor, a trained professional all the time. Sometimes it is prayer, or sometimes it is going to someone in the community that might be able to help, because healthcare is very expensive. People don't understand how much it is treated as a privilege in places that are still developing, because it is so scarce to find healthcare equipment or even education. Something as small as putting up a net at night and avoiding so much interaction with mosquitoes could save your life, because ultimately you would have less chances of contracting the disease. And a lot of times, because it's so far from the realities of a lot of my friends or a lot of people I know living in the United States, they don't understand that malaria is not only preventable, but it is also treatable. Yet there are more than 400,000 people have died from this disease in 2019 alone. When numbers are large to this extent, that could be your cousin, your friend's brother's mother, that could be your teacher's sister's friend. That's really scary to think about. As I said, I was affected by it too. And it is something very scary. In the moment, I thought I was going to lose my life. I was a teenager. Most teenagers in America are worried about breakouts and puberty and social media. I was worried that I was losing so much weight that I might die. My experience was scary and close to death, but I think about how privileged and blessed I was that my parents had the resources to help me get treated. But this is not the reality for everyone. It's more common that people do not have the resources to get treatment than they do.
We have a basketball program where we have over 2,000 kids. We always, on a daily basis, have a number of kids who are not able to show up because of malaria. We have now started putting funding on the side to rush people to the hospital or to provide them with the treatment, but it's always not enough, because the things that we need is preventable measures. I had my brother, who is privileged, right, in South Sudan, almost dying of malaria. And it's so important that people understand that global health is so important, because it prevents us from having the next leaders that we always say, oh, kids in Africa need to go to school. If they have malaria, they can't go to school. If they're sick, if they have no access to health, how can they go to school? How can the parents work if they are affected? It affects so many people that are close to us on a daily basis, and we don't even know it. You can have friends that come from areas that are high in malaria, and you don't know that they actually have just lost someone a week, a month, a year before that to malaria.
You said that so beautifully that what struck me from what you just said is like, through basketball, you saved people's lives, right? It's like everybody is responsible through their platform to use their voice or their gift. I know for me, I'm a singer and a figure that people look at for music and for joy from music. Well, I can also bring some healing by bringing information to people through my speaking, through educating people. How do you feel that you share your platform? You're a beautiful model. You're ripping up the internet with your beautiful photos. And I have had the pleasure of meeting you and know that you're a beautiful woman inside and out. How do you translate that message of, yes, I'm a beautiful model, but also I'm here to talk to you about things that are important to my people in the community and like saving the world and making it better? How do you feed people that information?
When I came to the United States and I was on my college campus, I didn't really care for social media. I didn't care for a lot of things like Twitters and Snapchats. I didn't even have the application. And my phone was simply for the use of it was a necessity. So when I came and I noticed how much everyone cared so much about being on the phone, posting a selfie. First, it was garnering attention online for an outfit that I wore or the way that I looked, vibrant colors, and being the face of certain things. I think that using this prominence, using this, I won't even say prominence, but using this influence for something larger than highlights and lip gloss, shoes, and trending topics, but something more important, something that can save people's lives. A lot of times people don't know. Like, people get sick because they don't know. And it becomes a never ending cycle. I'm thinking to myself, I didn't know that not sleeping under the net that 1 week, I would get malaria. It was almost instantaneous. But imagine those chances. And I explained to my friends in America, getting malaria back home is like having the cold in United States. But it's the reality. If you're comparing such a deadly preventable disease to the cold, that is the degree of how rampant it is.
Being African, being South Sudanese, I know that malaria is there. I just didn't know how impactful it was to every second of their lives. So I'm talking adults and young people. While we were rebuilding a school in South Sudan, we spent so much time. We actually had to rush the headmaster, the head teacher of the school, to the hospital due to malaria. He was gravely ill that my brother picked him up, put him in a truck, and took him to the hospital. This is how serious it is for them on an everyday level. And we went into this thinking, we're going to do a basketball program. But that basketball program has so much responsibility in it, because also we became responsible for those kids. We became responsible for them every day. So when they don't show up, our number one knowledge, the first thing that comes to mind is malaria. So what do we need to do? Who knows where these kids live? Let's find out what's going on with them. Let's send one of our coaches over, or any of our coaches, they don't show up. That's the first thing. Even during this global pandemic where everyone is worried about COVID, we are still worried about malaria. The kids will literally say to you, I have malaria every day. What's COVID going to do? And with that said, I want to ask Lual, actually, how does global health, and I think you touched on this a little bit, but how does global health affect the gaming industry or the gaming platform? How can we look at that picture?
Really just understanding that games are really very powerful, that we can use them to just help people understand what other people go through. For example, when you look back up there, that is my main character for my game. And the reason is actually the game that I'm building is a game that helps people understand the flight of refugees, being from a war-torn country to what it takes to be from a war-torn country to be in a refugee camp. And when you're playing video game as a person, you really have to be in the shoes of other people. And I think that to us as the industry, and it's just making sure that we advocate and help people understand, actually, even the players understand that even this malaria is very important. It could be something in the game that somebody can experience, and somebody can be able to understand, oh my God, my character is not going to survive because if I don't feed them or if I don't give them the medicine, they're not going to survive. Just making sure that because it's a big industry, more people are playing the game, people begin to understand, just have empathy, because that's the most important thing right now. Like we are lacking in the world. It's not that we are not having the resources. We don't have the empathy to actually look, thinking that, there are more people that are suffering from malaria. There are more people, because it's not something that is part of you. It's not something that you get every time, but there are more people every single day. So to me, I think it's all about just understanding that we can have consequence of that, because there are more people that we are losing every single day. We are going to lose people that are going to be entrepreneurs. We're going to lose people that are going to be leaders of the world. We're going to lose artists, activists. And actually, that give me the question to ask Felisa, because I think that your platform is amazing. And to me, everything that we do today has to start with an inspiration. You have to have, you need to be inspired by something in order to do it. And I just want to understand, like, really what inspired you to use your platform today to advocate for global health.
You guys are all inspiring me so much to be inspired, because that's really all it takes in order to really help make positive change. It's to be inspired. On the front of global health, I would definitely say being the power of the diaspora, right? My diasporic understanding of that I was now one of the privileged first world people by way of my family being immigrants to this country and giving me an opportunity to not have the same worries as they had. The basic worries that I worry about when I wake up here in America are not what my grandmama and all of my ancestors from Haiti had to experience. And so that's definitely inspired me. And I think I know, Sakina, you do it through modeling and influencing, the Luol Deng Foundation. Arek, you guys do it through basketball and education. You do it, Luol, through gaming. I do it through singing and music, because that was really brilliant what you said, because I don't think the everyday person understands that we can go in and champion our wants and needs in many different ways. What do you think we can do to influence other people, the everyday human being, to care about these, especially other people in the diaspora who love and appreciate their native homes and their origins just like we do? How can we influence those people and beyond to help this cause, to end malaria for good in this world?
I think one of the first things to do is to really be authentic within ourselves and share with them why this is so important to us. And also remind them that they do have a voice. Because sometimes what happened to us in the diaspora is that we come to these countries thinking that we are still second-class citizens. We still believe that we should always take the back seat. But we do have that voice. We do have the right. We do have the opportunity to change the course of some things that are happening in this world. And it's so important that we let them know that they do have those, and those who are able and are willing to practice, because it's still also a personal right to get involved. But some people want to be involved. Sometimes they don't know where to find those resources or how to even reach out and also feel like they are heard. So the most important thing is for them to know that they can be heard, they should be heard, and they do have the right to actually speak up. Or whether you are a citizen of the United States or any other country in this world, you can speak up, so you would be saving a life without having to even spend a dime. Do that and be proud that you are part of making change.
So I think that people understanding how preventable it is can definitely inspire people to step in and help. Like I said, I always told my friends in college when I was trying to help fundraise, you spend $5 on a coffee. $5 for a net, and you're actually saving someone. Like, it's not just for an extra luxury. I think that hearing these stats, hearing this information of how small of an action can have such a greater, massive impact on a population, and it's ultimately lives. I think with this global pandemic, COVID, we've learned how valuable life is and how something really small can take it. Just like that, we add another number. But when these numbers are representative of people's lives, it's game changing. It completely morphs the whole story. It changes what this number means. And if we can even take half of the children that are online shopping or scrolling on Instagram or doing whatever and make them realize, hey, this is the small action that you can contribute today into solving this global health issue.
Well, I think it's so inspiring that through you guys and hopefully me, people can see that no matter who you are, where you sit, what diaspora you're from or who you represent, that it's all of our jobs to fight for global health. We all, I think, have such an important responsibility, and I'm grateful that to know and meet other amazing people in the diaspora who don't forget, even through their eyes, that this is a collective experience. I'm grateful that we're all doing our part, and I hope we can inspire other people to feel the power that we have as the diaspora community. Thank you, Nothing But Nets, for having us all, and I hope that we can be a big part of the end of this epidemic of malaria.